Thank you very much for letting us speak tonight. My name is Brenda Jacob. I'm the Secretary of Rhode Island Revolver and Rifle Association. I am also a competitor. I also run the Junior Rifle League in the state of Rhode Island. So I have a little bit of background that I'm going to just reinforce on some of the comments that these gentlemen have made. First of all, on the minor bills, these minor bills will be detrimental to the kids that are competing and being sought out by various schools throughout the country. There are over 300 schools in this country that accept the shooting sports and issue scholarships, and we have numerous kids right now that are on full scholarships going to college. We also have kids that are at West Point Academy, Air Force Academy, Coast Guard Academy, Merchant Marine Academy that have all been sought out and are now going to school in these academies. The minor bills will prohibit these kids from being able to go to practice. A lot of these parents are working full-time jobs and can't get home in time for these kids to be able to travel to the range to, hone their skills. And just for your knowledge, we do have 2 kids that have just been invited by invitation for their abilities to compete at the Junior Olympic Training Center in April. And they are, one is from West Greenwich and one is from Cumberland, and they're representing our state out there, and they are just a limited number of kids in the country that are invited out there. As far as the magazine bill, as a female, I have a problem with this bill because it impedes functionality. I have smaller hands than the men do, and a lot of times if you have to change a magazine that should be factory issued, and now I have to change that, it changes the functionality of the firearm. And as an instructor, I see this happen often. So that to me makes the firearm not as safe as it would be if we could use the factory magazines. As far as the assault weapon bill, I have a lot of problems with the terminology in this. There's a lot of deceptive language in this bill. When you get into the definitions on this bill, any firearm that can hold a bayonet, that encompasses all of your military firearms. Anything with a threaded barrel. Our junior rifle team, a lot of their barrels they're all threaded barrels. You've just eliminated all of their firearms. So it encompasses way more firearms than people realize. I hear this a lot. Well, it's just a few firearms. It's just this, it's just that. Well, really, it's not just that. When you read the description in these bills, it's very deceptive, and people don't realize that. If you're not a gun owner, you don't understand how many firearms this actually encompasses. The other problem I have with the magazine bill and the assault rifle bill is the surrender and forfeiture. Those 2 words scare me to death. When you're talking about surrender and forfeiture of personal property, you're setting a precedent here for this to go on and be other things. What, is it going to be cell phones next year? When it comes into certain cases, that is a very dangerous slippery slope that I don't think that we should be getting involved in. As far as gun-free zones, I'm a firearms instructor. I volunteer many, many hours teaching women how to shoot, and a lot of them are domestic violence victims. And one in particular asked me about this gun-free zone bill because she was a victim of domestic violence. She went through the proper channels to go ahead and get her concealed carry, and she is in fear for her life because of her domestic violence situation. So her question for me to ask you guys is, what happens to her now if we make gun-free zones? Now her attacker is going to know that she is vulnerable to go pick up her children. And I think that she has a very valid question. A lot of these bills do nothing to make us safer. And I feel bad for you up there because right now you're up there trying to legislate what makes me feel safer as opposed to other people feel safer. You're in a tough situation, and again, I appreciate your time. But none of these bills are going to affect the criminals. They're only here to affect the law, the law-abiding citizens. And that makes us more vulnerable if you start infringing on our rights, because now the criminals are actually going to have more rights than we do. And I just don't feel that that's a fair shake. As far as the Gun Safety Task Force, I've read that report extensively, and in that executive summary, it says right there that we are one of the safest states in the United States, yet here we are with all of these gun bills in front of us. I actually feel that Rhode Island is very safe, and I think it's because right now we do have a well-balanced set of firearm laws. And I'm concerned that some of these bills are going to tip that balance and make us a less safe state, and maybe encourage more of the tragedies that are happening throughout the United States, and it really makes me worry about that. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the straw purchase bill, number 5754. That bill has good intentions, but the language is too vague. As a firearms instructor, we have Women's Day and Youth Day, and we have public awareness and safety days. And now if I'm an instructor and I'm standing on the line and I'm volunteering my time, and someone comes up to learn how to safely handle a firearm, I don't know that person's record. And essentially, I'm handing a firearm to someone, you know, which technically is a loan at that point. And now am I in trouble because later on we find out that that person might have an infraction on their record. You know, so there's that language in that bill is too vague. And I think that the language in a lot of these bills is just too vague, and it just sweeps too many of our rights away and doesn't work towards solving the problems that we have right now in our society. You can't legislate morality. You can't legislate criminals. And I just don't see where any of these bills are going to prevent more crime from happening. And I would gladly accept any questions if anybody has any questions.